Welcome to BBC Five Live's Football Daily EuroLeagues podcast with Guillem Balague. The big story in England, of course, this week has been what has been reported as the breakdown in the relationship between Jose Mourinho and Paul Pogba. Should we put a little bit of context now that we know more about it? In the training ground on Wednesday morning, Jose Mourinho was telling off Pogba for an Instagram post in which he was seeing Pogba laughing with Andreas Pereira and Luke Shaw. That was filmed during the Derby game, but only posted after about 10:30 p.m. really, because apparently he wasn't using Wi-Fi, and it's very complex to use Wi-Fi in a stadium. You have to register, and it doesn't always work. He was using 4G, and that delayed the sending of the post, but also comes on the week of the attack. We should attack when we are home. His words, not mine, after the Wolves draw at Old Trafford and after he was stripped of the captaincy by Jose Mourinho. So the first thing I want to ask all of you is, what did you see in those pictures that so far have been watched by 7 million people? Steve?
I saw a bit of pantomime. I saw a story which is actually just ahead of Killing Eve on the BBC as my favourite sort of drama at the moment. I saw a man in Mourinho kind of desperately looking out for a lieutenant. It's well publicised that he doesn't have Rui Faria there anymore. However, he also doesn't really have a go-to player that I think he can rely on their support. You know, you look at the Manchester United squad now, it's the remnants of the last 4 different managers. I think he was kind of looking around for a friend and someone to support him. I think the Manchester United fans are more behind Mourinho than Pogba, but I'm not sure that's true within the squad.
The thing is, I think Mourinho is the one who's provoking there. I don't think he was looking for someone to protect him, because he was the one being the antagonist in this exchange. And I found Pogba's body language, I mean, he was running past him anyway, but it was like, what did you just say to me? And I think that was the best example yet of just how cold this relationship seems to have become. Certainly contrast it with some of the stuff that Juve used to put out when he was playing there. Yeah, he would be staying back after training, playing all kinds of games with Massimiliano Allegri and Paulo Dybala. Not these kind of war games, let's say, that are going on between him and Jose Mourinho at the moment.
But the thing is, when they had an argument before, so last season when he dropped him, even after the Leicester game, the first game of the season in August, Mourinho would call him in his office at Carrington and would have a chat with him there. And it was, in those 2 occasions, it was not a nice chat. He was basically telling him to respect him, etc. But he would never do it in this way. And Mourinho knew exactly, and that's how Machiavellic Mourinho is, because he knew exactly the cameras were there on that day. They could have not been there, but United and Mourinho allowed them to be there because Mourinho knew exactly what he was going to do and what was going to happen. And I think he wanted to restore a bit of his leadership and saying, like, I'm the boss here and I'm going to show the whole world. However, I think the way Pogba reacted to what Mourinho said actually gave Pogba a very strong position, I thought, more than Mourinho, because Mourinho looked really undermined. And that's why I think, Steve, you're saying, like, yeah, he was looking around to know who was his allies, because Pogba was so strong in his response to Mourinho that for me, in that boxing round, if you want, Pogba won every single day.
But that again goes to show how Mourinho miscalculated that opportunity, that moment entirely.
Or has he? Let's explain why the cameras were there. So once a month, Sky Sports has got the opportunity to film training. There was a little bit of a telling off from Mourinho, apparently, to the press office saying, why were the cameras there today after? But he knew exactly what he was doing. He knew the cameras were there. I'm sure Pogba, or it seems to me Pogba didn't, because of his reaction was the reaction of somebody who's not being watched and who thinks, as Julian is saying, has got the same right to answer back the manager. It's like he's got the same authority as the manager, so it seemed. But we've all experienced Jose Mourinho and these kind of actions from him. He wants everybody alerted all the time. He wants them to be alerted and even to see him as the enemy, even the players themselves, because they want them to react, the players, with pride, and they want them to be upset sometimes, to have a reaction. But now the players are different. Pogba is the owner of himself, as he shown when he reacted back. But then Mourinho has got a plan B with the same circumstances and the same event. If it doesn't work out well, he can always say, look, I've tried. Everybody's seen that I've tried, but the players were not reacting to my methods. So it's always, I feel, a win-win situation with Mourinho. And now we're finding, aren't we, a little bit of a crossroad here. Who goes first?
Well, I look at this and I think one of the reasons Pogba reacted like he did and answered back is because he probably fancies himself to outlast that relationship there. I think, in terms of the power struggle going on at that club at the moment, Pogba recognises that he is a more influential figure, certainly going forward when it comes to what United need to do, not only in being successful on the pitch, but off it as an entertainment company, as something that's always churning out content. Pogba's huge in that, much more so, I would say, than Jose Mourinho at this moment in time. So,
even Tuttosport is saying that Pogba's decided to go to Juventus. Tuttosport, well informed what he has to do with Juventus.
Yes, Tuttosport being the Turin-based sports paper, one of the three big national dailies involved in sport in Italy. We've had all these reports over the last few days. Pogba's been texting his friends at Juventus. Well, I mean, they're friends regardless of who they play for. They're entitled to stay in touch. I look at the reports going on about a possible return to Juve, and I think after the effort that Juventus made to sign Cristiano Ronaldo, not only in terms of a fee, which is a Serie A record, but also to pay him what they are paying him every year for the next few years, €31 million a year, it'll be very difficult for them to sign Pogba. We can't see the whole board if we're playing chess at the moment. There could be sales that might be lined up, but I think it'd be very difficult for them to do that, even though the general manager of Juventus, Beppe Marotta, has said recently that Pogba is, quote unquote, a special case. So
do you think that, Julian, that PSG have got the money? I'll tell you about Barcelona in a second, but will PSG be able to afford him?
They would want him there for sure, and he's a Paris born and bred kid. So the idea, like Kylian Mbappe, to bring him home, I think would be very appealing in an area where they're a bit short in midfielders anyway. However, a bit like for Juventus and what James was saying, I think with financial fair play, especially still on their back and still continuing their investigation on the club's money situation, I think it'd be very hard for them, not just the transfer fee, but also in terms of wages. You're looking easily at 20 million a year, if not more. And I just don't think they've got that money. So if, let's say, Pogba stays until the end of the season at United somehow, and then maybe Neymar goes to Real Madrid next summer, then okay, then there would be space for Paul Pogba to come home. But apart from that, I can't see it happening.
There's a lot of stories that have been published in recent times, including the summer, that come from the same source, Mino Raiola, who's trying to create 5 minutes in 5 Live talking about Pogba and his future. Barcelona have made no contact to anybody about Pogba this summer, and they made no offer whatsoever, even though it's been repeated in the English media. They have not done that. They haven't spoken about Pogba. But if he becomes available, of course they will be interested.
Guillem, I mean, this is one of the things that I wanted to follow up with you. If you look at Mino Raiola's relationship with Barcelona going back a few years,
with Ibra,
mm-hmm.
There was a lot of tension there. It was almost like, we can't wait to get rid of you. We do not want to deal with this individual. There's been regime change at Barcelona since then. Does that mean that, for example, there'd be an opening up, there'd be more willingness to do business with
Let's say that
people,
they've spoken to Mendes, our players.
Mm-hmm.
Mendes, of course, was closely linked to, say, Real Madrid in the past. And they will speak to Mino Raiola. But they see him as a problem. They see that the money that he will be asking is something they probably won't be able to or won't want to pay. But it's about reinforcing this Barcelona that he keeps being hit and miss, and especially in the midfield. And they see him as the kind of midfield that they would like to have. As long as Frankie de Jong from Ajax comes as well, that's the idea they've got for the future. If he becomes available, but they have not rang Manchester United, Barcelona, and they have not been in touch with Mino Raiola either yet.
The very fact that we're talking about all these clubs that would want Paul Pogba kind of tells you, I think, why maybe Pogba might be more likely to outlast this situation than Jose Mourinho. Because if you think back to when Mourinho had all the problems at Chelsea, Diego Costa kind of became the face of those problems. But without Diego Costa around, it's not like the situation was alleviated. So if you're Ed Woodward looking at this situation, do you think your problems are going to be solved by getting rid of Paul Pogba, or Jose Mourinho? You know, a lot of people will say you've got to back the manager in this situation because it's one player versus a manager who's in charge of a whole team. But this isn't Jose Mourinho's team, really. It's a team made up of disparate parts of the last 4 managers. So actually, I don't really think it's so much of a case of who's going to want Pogba now. I think it's who's going to want Mourinho now.
PSG at some point. That's the plan, isn't it? That's the big plan.
Yeah, I'm not sure even PSG would welcome him anymore now. I think the struggles that he's had this season and the football he's played and the critics from the players. I mean, for me, the sentence that just gone not noticed enough after the Derby County defeat was the one about Phil Jones. How come a manager today can go publicly on national television and said, oh, when I saw it was Phil Jones and Eric Bailly taking the next pens, I knew we were in trouble. And publicly humiliating the way he did. And that's why the dressing room has had enough. Not just Paul Pogba, but many other players, because of those constant public outbursts from Mourinho regularly all through the season against Luke Shaw, against Pogba, against Phil Jones, against Eric Bailly, against all the centre-backs that he has who are all rubbish. And that he needs some more new ones, more expensive ones, etc., etc. And I think there's a point where the room said, I've had enough of all of this. And that's why when Mourinho said to Pogba after the Wolves game, in the dressing room in front of everyone, you're a good player, but you're nothing special. I can understand why Paul Pogba has had enough and then comes out straight after in the mix zone and said, you know what, the tactics was wrong. This is what we should have done. This is why I feel we were restricted to attack because we took the lead. And then the manager, clearly, that's not what he wanted us to do.
Hold on. You actually saying that the players, you're giving too much respect and authority to the players. Should they choose who the manager should be? Somebody that they like, a friend of theirs?
No, this is another point. We talk about United's need of a sporting director for recruitment, but they need someone who's a go-between here, who I think can talk to these two guys and basically say, why don't you sleep on this? Let's cool down a little bit. Let's not air our dirty laundry out in front of everyone, which is exactly what's going on.
Would Mourinho accept somebody like that, though, given his kind of traditional desire to control?
He killed everyone that looked like that all through his career. He's at Manchester United to be the manager. The problem is times have moved on, and I've got the impression that he is doing the same methods as we described earlier of getting everybody on their toes, but players are not reacting to it anymore. So when that happens, it's the club who's got to admit that and say, okay, we need somebody else in front.
The EuroLeagues on the Football Daily Podcast.